The first side hustle that's probably the easiest to get started for students is some form of tutoring. So, for example, for me, I tutored in high school, undergrad, and graduate school. I tutored within the actual university I was working with or school I was working at the time. But then I also tutored online using, for example, I did tutor.com for a couple years, and then I used varsity tutors when I was in grad school. And so to get started tutoring, it's really nice because if you're a student, you're obviously learning something, and there are going to be other people that are trying to learn that same thing. So if you're really good at something that you are learning or you've already taken a class, if you're really good at that, you can easily apply those skills to teaching someone else in that same class. Now, in rating this, how hard is it to get started with tutoring? So I would give it a 3 for how hard it is to get started. A lot of these programs, so for example, tutor.com, you actually have to take an exam first to show that you know what you're talking about before you can tutor people. A lot of university sites, you either have to take some kind of practice test or get referenced from a professor. So you do actually have to know what you're talking about, and then you have to go through whatever system you need to be able to do this. But some people, I know one person in grad school tutored as side income while she was in grad school and then ended up creating her own tutoring business when she graduated from grad school as well. Now, for how hard is it to earn $100, I would give tutoring a 2. It's pretty easy if you can get one client or a couple clients to be able to earn $100 from just a few sessions of tutoring. And so even doing something like tutor.com, you're going to get less per client per se, because it's just kind of an online system where people come in and can ask questions. But if you can get regularly booked in, tutoring clients, it's pretty easy to be able to earn $100. However, it does take time to be able to do that. Obviously, you have to give time to that person every single time you're trying to tutor that person. Now, the third rating is the maintenance effort. So, for example, to keep making money from this side hustle, how much energy does it take? And so I'm giving tutoring a 4. Obviously, tutoring is you're selling your time. So every single time you take a tutoring session, every single time you're trying to make money, you actually have to give up time and effort to be able to do that. So it's a 4 on the maintenance. And then for earning potential with no work, so once you've stopped actually doing any work, how much can it earn? And that's going to be rated at a 1. So basically, if you stop actually tutoring people, you're not going to make any money from tutoring. So essentially, if you want to keep making money, well, it's kind of easy to get started, easy to medium hard to get started. If you want to be able to make money for the long term, you are going to have to keep booking clients and tutoring people. Now, again, there are online ways to do this. There are a lot of online websites where you can offer tutoring services. You can just offer your services within your own department or university, or if there's a help center. So like in my universities, you could get hired at the writing center, or you could get hired as a part-time tutor in different centers to be able to help students, or you can even post on a lot of university bulletin boards. You can actually post your services to be able to help students with specific subjects. So overall, tutoring, I would give a 4-star rating for a good side hustle for students. It does take up your time, but if you have free time and you want to earn extra money, I think this can be a really great side income for a lot of students. The second side hustle for students is editing. And I actually did editing whenever I was in graduate school. I did editing on a site called Fiverr. You could just pay me, I think it was like $25 to $30 for me to edit your scientific research articles. And I would go through edit like the grammar and spelling, but also give a lot of organizational, how to make it better and things like that. And that's where I did start getting a lot of my development of teaching my processes for how to create scientific research articles. And I started to notice a lot of the same mistakes made over and over again in scientific research articles by students. When writing editing, you could do this just by offering your services at your university or at a writing center. You can also do it online as a freelancer through sites like Upwork or Fiverr. Fiverr is where I did mine. So rating how hard is it to get started in editing? And I would rate this a 2. Obviously, if you're trying to advertise your services or looking to do it at your university, you're going to have to apply or actually work on advertising your services. On Fiverr or Upwork, you really just have to create your posting, or on Fiverr, it's called a gig. You have to create like an image and input in some details about that. So it's not really hard to get started offering your services in editing. Now, how hard is it to earn $100? I'm also rating this a 2 because, again, all you really need is a couple people to book. And if you're charging what you're worth with your editing, especially now in editing, you do want to make sure you have good writing skills, you have good editing skills, and you're not just someone who has never really worked in editing and is just starting to offer your services. You're probably going to get a lot of bad reviews and people not being happy. But if you've regularly edited your lab mates' papers, if you're regularly working with people and you've gotten good feedback from your editing, this is a potential side income for you. And if you are actually good at it, it's pretty easy to earn $100. So I'm giving it a rating of 2 for how easy is it to earn $100. Now, if you're charging what you're worth and you're good at editing, you can probably charge about $25 per paper that you're editing. And these would be like 8 to 10 page research papers, or even if you're helping people with like their papers to submit for a class or something, you can probably charge about $25, which means all you need to do is edit 4 papers and you've made $100 already. And so you could probably make $100 in about a week once people actually start booking your gig. The maintenance effort to keep earning money from this side hustle is also going to be a 4, just like tutoring. And this is because you are consistently trading your time for monies, because to keep getting money from editing, you have to keep editing people's papers. So it is going to take the same amount of effort basically to start as it is going to take to continue. Now, what is nice is if you put a lot of effort into the advertising part, whether that's on Fiverr, getting a lot of reviews, or at your university, being able to advertise it, that level of effort's probably going to come down. You're not going to have to keep doing that. And if you're really good at it, you might also spread through word of mouth, which means that you don't have to keep doing the advertising portion of your gig to keep making money. The last one is your future potential earnings when you stop doing work. And so this is going to be rated as a 1 because basically you're not going to get paid once you stop editing people's papers. And so therefore you're not going to be able to make any money after you stop doing the work. The third side hustle for students is content creation. So this can be things like what I'm doing right now on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, creating a blog, even writing on Medium, doing a podcast, TikTok. Any of those types of content creation sites can become a side hustle. Now, how hard is it to get started? I'm going to rate this as a 2. It's pretty easy to get started in any of these things. All you really have to do is create an account. If you already have a Google account for YouTube, you can either use that and you already have your YouTube account, or you can create a brand specific account. And like this one is a brand specific account that's on one of my Google accounts already. Once you have that, all you have to do is create a single piece of content and upload it. And now you have gotten started as a content creator, essentially. So it's really, really easy to get started with content creation. Now, how hard is it to earn $100? And this is going to be rated as a 4. It's pretty hard to get $100 from content creation. I know a lot of people want to kind of spread that this is super easy to do and you should get into it and buy their course and make a lot of money from it. But it really isn't that easy to make a lot of money from it when you're starting out. So for example, in this brand, I didn't actually make any money from my brand until a couple months ago. I actually went negative in my brand for 2 years. I started my brand over 3 years ago. I went negative in my brand for the first 2 years. I didn't make any money from my brand for those 2 years. And even the 3rd year, I just recouped up the negatives that I've done. So this year will be the first year I actually make any profit in this brand because it does take so long. And while people will say, oh, in 6 months, you're going to make tons of money from this, if you look at those that actually make it big and share their earnings, you will see that usually the first 2 years, they are negative or really, really low in the income. So for example, I know almost all of these things to get the AdSense money, so your share of money from ads being displayed from your content, you usually have to meet some threshold. So for example, on YouTube, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. That took me over 2 years to even hit that on this channel. to be able to actually even get money from AdSense. Any other source of income from your content, you have to work really hard to get those systems in place to even make income off that. And even then, even once you hit monetization, the amount of money you're making is actually really little. So for example, on this channel on YouTube, which actually gives a lot of money for advertisement. So for me to be able to make $100 from my views, I have to get 33,000 views a month to make $100 a month, basically. So that does change depending on what niche you're in. Obviously, niches that talk about business tend to make more money. And then other niches can even make less money than what I make from AdSense. So the maintenance effort, I would actually put as a 3. And I think a lot of people talk about content creation as passive income. Obviously, you create the content and it makes money for you. That's not really realistic in that to really grow a channel, grow your brand, you have to keep putting in a lot of work. You have to keep making content regularly. You even have to do a lot of behind the scenes work to create systems and products so that you can actually make enough money to even make this worth it over the long term. Some content creators blow up really big, and a lot of people apply those numbers to all content creators, and that's not really accurate. You are going to have to put a decent effort continuously into content creation if you want it to be able to maintain or grow. For future potential earnings, so if you stop making any content, I would rate this as a 4. And that's because if you have a large amount of content before you stop making content, so if you have 1,000 videos and then you stop making content, those videos are probably going to keep getting served up if you've done some form of search. So for example, YouTube or a blog is searchable content. So some of my highest performing videos are from 2021. So if I stopped making videos today, those videos would probably earn some income for a certain amount of time before they would really drop off and go out of search because they would be considered outdated because I'm not making any more content. So you can still get some earnings even when you're not actually making content anymore. And that's where the passive side of it comes in. But obviously, those are going to start dropping off more and more. As you're not creating new content, you're not going to get found as regularly. And so that's going to end up dropping off almost to zero after a few years, most likely. The fourth side hustle is creating online courses. And so specifically when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about putting these courses on marketplaces. So something like Udemy or Skillshare. I have courses on Skillshare. They are more on the business side of things instead of the research side of things. But there are also a lot of courses on Udemy about, science courses or research or things like that. If you're really good in tutoring something, you may want to consider making an online course in that thing. Now, how hard is it to get started making an online course? And I'm going to rate this as a 4. It is pretty hard to get started making an online course because you essentially have to make an entire course just to get started, and you don't know if anyone will ever even buy that course and you'll ever even make any money off of it at all. And I think a lot of even Udemy courses probably don't actually make a lot of money or even any money ever. I did have one course that I put on Udemy years ago that's no longer on Udemy that really did not make much money, but then I ended up including that in a different course that I sell on my actual brand. So if you dive into what courses I actually sell, those are not hosted on Udemy or Skillshare. They are hosted on my own backend so that I can control the quality that is given to everyone who comes into the course. So it is going to be pretty hard to get started in online courses, especially if you don't have any form of audience. You're not going to have anyone to really sell it to. So you're going to really have to rely on marketplaces to be able to serve up your course. The question of how hard is it to earn $100? I would give this another 4. It is pretty hard to earn $100 if you don't already have an audience from your online course. So for example, when I was saying for the first 2 years, really, my first 2 years of business, I was negative. I actually had courses during that time, and they just really didn't make money because I didn't have enough of an audience to be able to realize the value in my courses and be able to buy my courses. So it is going to be difficult. Now, I will say on Skillshare, especially if you have knowledge in something tech, business, or creative related, that's probably going to be a better system because people don't have to choose to buy your course. They pay for a membership. I think it's $10 a month, and they get access to all these different courses. And so that's why I put business related content on there, just that it can help people who are already paying a membership for access to other people's courses. Now, the maintenance effort for an online course is a 1. It is probably the least amount of maintenance effort because you're not having to regularly create content or anything like that. You can just use the marketplace to be able to serve your online courses. And the future potential earnings, so once you stop doing any work on your online course, are going to be a 5. I think it's really easy to be able to make money, especially if you can get served up in these marketplaces algorithms once you stop working, because honestly, all of the money that you really get from an online course comes after you stop working on that online course. And then the 5th and final side hustle for students is to monetize a hobby. And so if you have a hobby that you really enjoy and you want to be able to make some extra money and none of the above sound good, you can choose to monetize that hobby. So examples of this are if you play a musical instrument, you could choose to do gigs for playing that musical instrument or offer lessons. I guess that's also a form of tutoring, but you can offer lessons for that musical instrument. If you're really into magic, you can offer your services to do magic shows. If you're really into physical fitness, you can offer personal training sessions or get a part-time job at a gym. Things like this allows you to be able to monetize something that you really enjoy to get some extra income while you are a student. Because of the wide ranging of monetizing your hobby, I'm not going to give it the ratings that I've been giving the other ones, because I think it can be really difficult with how hard is it to get started. Really depends on how you want to go with it. So if it's something like doing lessons, it's probably as simple as getting started with tutoring. But if it's something like you want to now create a physical product. So I actually at one point had a business that would sell cross-stitching kits that were science related. And that took a lot more effort to get started because I had to create these patterns, actually cross-stitch the patterns, create the kits, and all of that work. How hard is it to earn $100? Again, this really depends on what you're doing. If you're selling something like physical products, it's probably going to be more difficult than if you're giving lessons or booking gigs for that hobby. But there are a lot of different options. And if you're curious about monetizing your hobby, then you may want to think about what hobbies do you have and what are reasons that people would pay you for the knowledge or for that hobby itself. And then you can see if there are just maybe part-time positions that would allow you to do that hobby, or if you can monetize it more in a freelancing way. With any of these side hustles or gigs, it is important to remember that, especially if you are an assistant within your university and you are getting paid, especially if you're a graduate student getting paid, it's important to remember to abide by the guidelines within your assistants. So if they say that you cannot have jobs, obviously you don't want to be looking for these part-time jobs. So I know some universities kind of have these in their rules, but don't really enforce them. And I think that's an important risk to realize that you're taking on, instead of just going out and getting something, being like, oh yeah, I can do a side hustle, and then losing your assistantship potentially. So definitely look into the regulations of those things. And if you're interested in any of these, leave me comments below if you have questions about how to get started in these different side hustles. I have done all of them at one point in time or another. And so I just wanted to share, if other people are looking into how can they make some side income, these are some different ways that I have actually made side income from. If you're interested in more content about making money and careers, I'll leave a few videos up here, and I hope to see you in the next video.